Well, she couldn't have kept on because she had shingles 5 years ago, and that really knocked the stuffing out of her. She's had back pain and has been seeing an osteopath every week for that. That curtails the things she can and can't do. She's got tinnitus, which prevents her from socializing with more than 3 other people. Otherwise, she can't hear what anyone's saying. And she's permanently exhausted. She would go out into the garden because she saw something that needed doing. And after 15 minutes, she'd come back in the house and say, "I'm exhausted." And she spent every day lying on the sofa watching TV and sleeping for the last 2 years. And that's not much of a quality of life, especially for someone like Gill, who used to love going out walking around London, seeing people, having dinner parties. She had a very busy life. But since the shingles 5 years ago, it's gone rapidly downhill. And
was it a decision?
On top of that,
yes. Go ahead.
On top of that, she's had a lifelong fear of having a stroke and losing her control over her own life. And if you put those two together, I think it gives you a better picture of where she was and what may have led her to this timing.
Was it a decision that you agreed with? You must have talked about it a lot. Did you try to persuade her not to do it?
Well, we've been talking about it. She's always said, I mean, for 20 years, she has said, in the loosest sort of way, "I'm not going to grow old." But it's really in the last 5 years, since she had shingles and since she turned 70, that she's really been focusing on it. And that's when we've had most of our discussions really have been in the last sort of 3 years. She had a holiday 3 years ago and said that in the USA, where her daughter is, and said then that that would be the last time they would see each other. But the holiday didn't work out very well for other reasons, and so they arranged another holiday last year in October. But when we came back from that holiday, Gill was quite seriously getting her skittles in order and looking at her options, and found the option of going to Lifecircle clinic in Switzerland, which she did. That was 2 weeks ago.
If there had been...
You asked...
I was going to say, if there had been better opportunities for her to take her own life, or to be assisted in dying in this country, would she not have gone to Switzerland? Might she still be alive today?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Had the facility existed in this country, she would have stayed in this country and been much happier. But also, if she'd had the facility in this country to know, having written a living will, or an advance directive it's called, where you state as clearly as can be stated that if anything like a stroke should reduce your quality of life, then you would like to be given a medically assisted death. If that facility existed, she would have carried on, because she would have, the fear of being incapacitated by a stroke at any time would have been lifted. And in fact, it's the case that these countries that have introduced this legislation, like Switzerland mostly, but also the Dutch and the state of Oregon in the USA, when they legislated to allow medically assisted deaths, the suicide rate went down. And that's because people were relieved to know that there was no longer a rush. They could do it, the facility was in place, and they would be taken care of if they ever needed it. And that's what we'd like in this country.